Alright, so just after finishing their final roster cuts, the Eagles made some major moves to fill out their practice squad as they brought back a ton of promising players who nearly made the roster that could definitely end up making an impact for the Birds at some point this season. And they also brought back a former Eagle after he was let go by a division rival. Meanwhile, Eagles legend Jason Kelce revealed that he's still planning on helping the Birds throughout the season in some form, even though he's retired. Well, he also explained why new center Cam Jurgens is ready to dominate and have a breakout year. So let's talk about that and all the other Eagles news from a crazy day starting right now. What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Philly Fan 21 channel. If you're new, I'm Evan and I cover all things Philadelphia Eagles. And let's start off with Birds offensive lineman Mekhi Becton, who, after officially making the Eagles' 53-man roster as the starting right guard yesterday, took to Twitter and reposted something that Philly fans surely at least could find a little amusing. Now at this point, I think he's deleted it, but yesterday he had reposted this tweet saying, quote, "How it feels to leave New York," with a picture of a guy breaking free of some chains. So safe to say, Becton is happy to be out of New York and instead here in Philly, and that's backed up by these comments that he made way back during the spring.
Yeah, I feel happier for sure. Like I'm happier here. I'm having a great time here. It's like a big family here. Yeah, I would love it. I would love for it to be long term. I'm definitely looking forward to it. I want it to be long term. Like I love the city of Philly. Like I love the people here. I love the fans. Like it's great. I hope it's long term.
So hopefully Becton is able to go out there this season as the Birds starting right guard and play well and earn himself a long-term deal to remain in Philly for the foreseeable future, but I guess we'll see what happens. But now, moving on to some practice squad news, the Eagles obviously still had a ton of work to do today to fill that out the best that they could, even after all the hard work they did yesterday to trim their roster down to 53 guys. And trust me, we're going to get into all the practice squad news from today so far throughout the course of this video. But first, we start off with something that happened late yesterday regarding a former Eagle, as the giant killer Boston Scott is officially headed back to Pennsylvania, although it won't be with the Eagles, as after Scott was cut by the Rams, he went out and signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers practice squad. And look, I heard all the noise with some people suggesting that Scott should have come back to the Eagles to join their practice squad, but as much as I love him and honestly wouldn't have minded if that did happen, there is a reason that the Birds decided not to bring him back this offseason. I mean, I guess they just figured it was time to move on after 6 years, so I knew they weren't going to bring him back, and I wish Scott nothing but the best, and hopefully he's able to find some success in Pittsburgh and maybe eventually make his way onto the roster. And somebody that'll be hoping to make their way onto the Eagles roster in the next several years is offensive tackle Laekin Vakalahi, as the rugby-turned-football player who is playing football for the first time in his entire life this year is the first guy confirmed to be on the Eagles practice squad, as he's Philly's choice for the International Player Pathway program, meaning not only is he the 17th practice squad member, as he doesn't count against the 16 allowed spots, but he's also going to be here for the next few years, and he's just going to continue to learn and adjust to the game, and the goal is for him to one day eventually develop into a solid player. And in his very few snaps that he took at the end of the Eagles' final preseason game, I thought he looked pretty good for someone who's never played football at any level before, so he'll definitely be an interesting story to follow over these next few seasons, and for now, he's the first confirmed member of the Eagles practice squad. Well, I say confirmed, but it's really just more of a given that he'll be there. But moving on from that, the Eagles actually did go out and bring back a couple guys not too long after the signings for practice squad players really got started at 12 p.m., with the first one of them being tight end Jenkins, who I had personally predicted to be on the practice squad before the final roster cuts even happened, as Jenkins was a guy who made a case to be on the 53-man roster during training camp and preseason, as he made some impressive plays during practice and in game, so it definitely makes sense that they would want to bring him back on the practice squad, with him not quite making the cut for the roster, especially just with the lack of depth that they have at that tight end position as well, with just 2 guys on the active roster and 1 on IR. Now, shortly after that, the Eagles did lose a guy who was probably someone who they were considering bringing back on their practice squad, as defensive end Teron Jackson signed with the Carolina Panthers practice squad, and he's somebody who has showed a lot of promise before, so in my opinion, that does kind of stink. But then we got some good news shortly after that, as safety Andre Sam was signed back to the Birds practice squad, as the undrafted rookie was able to make a good impression on the Birds throughout the offseason, including making some nice plays in the preseason as well. Plus, when Sam was initially waived by the Birds, it was reported by Andrew DeCecco that the plan was to bring him back to the practice squad, so this move was no surprise either. And another move that wasn't a surprise was the Birds bringing back center Dylan McMahon to the practice squad, as the rookie was one of the more surprising releases, I would say, from Tuesday's roster cuts, especially in the circumstances that McMahon was under, because it's not like he played bad or anything during camp in the preseason, and also, the Birds don't really have a backup center on their active roster currently, but I guess the Eagles just figured they had to make a tough decision there, so McMahon didn't make it, but it is definitely a good thing that they were able to get him back on the practice squad so that they can develop him more, and maybe eventually he'll earn his way onto the roster whenever that may be. But now, switching over to another center, or a former center at this point, we look at Jason Kelce, as it seems like the recently retired legend could still be planning on helping the Birds this year. And don't worry, we're going to get into that and so much more in just a minute, but real quick, I do want to say, if you are enjoying this video and don't want to miss any other Eagles coverage throughout this entire season, then make sure you subscribe and also really importantly, turn on notifications so you're notified instantly when one of these videos is uploaded. I'd say that's a win-win for the both of us, because not only do I get more people consistently watching these videos, but you don't miss any other Eagles content or coverage just like this. So again, subscribe, turn on notifications, and also drop a like. Let's see if we can hit 800 likes on today's video. And now with all that being said, let's get back into the video. So getting back to Kelce, the legend has recently been enjoying retirement and getting into several different things, including signing a big deal with Amazon to put him and his brother Travis Kelce's podcast on the Amazon-owned Wondery podcasting platform, and also, of course, he started his broadcasting career with ESPN, but that doesn't mean that Kelce still won't be around the Eagles and in their facilities this season, as he recently revealed on WIP Radio that not only will he still be in the building from time to time during the season, but he's also willing to give out expertise and help the Eagles in any way this year.
I mean, I will offer my, expertise or frame of reference in any way that people are open or want it. You know what I mean? I like, if I see something very pointed, obviously with offensive line, I have all those guys' numbers and Stout, and I plan on still coming around the building on a weekly basis. So maybe not weekly, but I'll be during the season. And, I think that for me, would love to be able to help guys out. But I'm also, I'm gonna stay in my lane. I'm here to offer guidance and help. If you're looking for that, if I see something that I know right away, like, hey, if he does this, that'll mitigate an issue, or, we're doing this, and I think that maybe that, I'm always going to be there trying to help my guys out. No question about it.
So, despite his retirement, you still gotta love that Kelce is gonna be involved with the Eagles this year in some capacity, even if it is just offering occasional advice throughout the season, but whatever advice Kelce is willing to offer is no doubt gonna be valuable. And what else is valuable is that the Eagles' new center, Cam Jurgens, was able to play with Kelce for a couple years and learn from him while also preparing to take over the position. Speaking of which, Jason also gave a massive endorsement to Cam in his appearance on WIP, and he seemed confident that Jurgens could actually become a star for the Birds at center.
Well, he's got all the tools, and he's smart, and he's a competitive, fiery individual. He played very well for us at guard last year, and that's commendable because that's a hard position at his size and stature to go out there and have success at. And the fact that he was able to do it speaks volumes for the physicality that he has, because guard is a much more physical position by nature. And Cam, he's going to excel because of how big he is, how strong he is, how fast he is, how quick he is. All of the markers, just from a physical standpoint, he's in the upper echelon of what you would want in the center in the NFL. And then on top of that, he's competitive. He's smart. He wants to be great. He wants the team to be great. I think that all of these things are going to lend themselves to him having a very, very good year. He's surrounded by great players. It's going to be a good situation. So when you tack up all of the attributes, when you tack up the mentality of the player, and then you look at the position he's going to be put in and the guys around him, I don't think there's any chance that he doesn't flourish this year for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, I was already excited about Cam, but after hearing that endorsement from Kelce, I'm even more excited about him. Because when you got one of the greatest centers of all time praising him like that, then those comments definitely hold some weight, and I feel like there's probably a pretty decent shot that Cam is going to be pretty good. And like Kelce said, he's got great physical tools, and he's also got the right attitude. So I just cannot wait to watch him go out there this season and dominate, and hopefully realize the potential that Kelce just laid out. But now, moving on to another offensive lineman, the Birds brought back the veteran Nick Gates to the practice squad, which again is something that I expected, as the Birds love to have good depth on the offensive line, and Gates is a veteran who has played a lot in this league, a large portion of which was as a starter, so again, it makes sense that they would have wanted to bring him back on the practice squad, and I'm definitely a fan of this move. And also, personally, I gotta say that I'm a huge fan of Britain Covey, who made the initial 53-man roster for the first time in his career yesterday after being cut twice in the previous 2 years before making his way onto the roster in other ways. And speaking of Covey, he spoke to the media today after he made the roster, and he talked about what it's like after he's finally made it through cutdown day for the first time.
Yeah, it's great, I've been cut twice, and so I know how that is. I know how difficult of a day that is for so many people. To anyone out there who's been cut, it's understanding your value, your worth, and just keep fighting. So for me, I just, steps in the right direction. So grateful to be here. I feel like I had a great camp. I played as well as I probably could have. And anything past that is just outside of my control. So kind of similar to the last 2 years, I just own whatever my role is going to be, dominate in that, and hope that that role increases.
Man, just shout out to Britain Covey for working his butt off and improving his game and just embracing his role every single year, and that's got him to the point where he is now, where he's locked in on this roster and he's going to have a significant role in the team, both as a punt returner and also possibly as a rotational receiver. And Covey spoke about the possibility of getting more snaps on offense this year, even after the Jahan Dotson trade.
Just like I said, I still think that I showed enough, and I have showed enough over multiple years that they can use me on the offensive side of the ball, and we'll just see what's in store for that. But like I said, I view myself as a great player and a slot receiver, and I think that Jahan's played mainly on the outside, and we're mixing in Smitty, so we'll see what happens. But wasn't surprised by it. Happy to have him here. Happy to I've been a part of some dang good receiving groups. You know what I mean? So just another opportunity to learn, and not surprised by it. So it's going to be a good group, a really good group.
I mean, personally, I hope that Covey does get a little bit of run at receiver this year, because I think he's earned it, and also I like his skill set as well. But now, getting back to some more practice squad updates, the Birds brought back a couple other guys as press conferences were going on, including the undrafted rookie defensive tackle Gabe Hall, who I think has a lot of promising traits and who showed some ability during the offseason, so I'm definitely glad that he's back. And the Birds also decided to bring back a former Eagle who was actually here for the past 3 years in tight end Jack Stoll, as the Giants cut him from their roster recently, so the Birds swooped in and picked him back up. And again, he's another guy that can provide depth at the tight end position, and also someone I foresee the Eagles probably elevating at one or more points throughout the season, as again, the Birds only have 2 tight ends currently on the roster, so I definitely like this move as well. And then shortly after this, the Eagles made a ton more practice squad signings, as they brought back running back Tyrion Davis-Price, who I thought looked good in the preseason, so I liked that. Then they also brought back the former Penn State linebacker Brandon Smith, who had some nice moments in the preseason, including the game-winning fumble recovery in the Patriots game. They also brought back linebacker Oren Burks, who was probably right on the bubble of making the roster after an impressive showing in the preseason finale, so I'm definitely glad they were able to keep him. Plus, they also were able to bring back safety Caden Stearns, which I'm really happy about, because I think he's somebody who can play and produce in this league, but he's just been limited by injuries in his career. Speaking of which, he's recovering from one right now and still hasn't practiced, I don't believe, but again, glad to have him back, because I do think he provides great depth at the safety position, and if they have to call him up onto the active roster and he has to get some playing time, I'm confident that he'll be more than adequate. And then the Eagles also brought in a new wide receiver who was cut by the Commanders in undrafted rookie Marcus Rosemi-Jacksaint, so we'll see if he's able to develop in his time here. And then they also brought back wide receiver Parris Campbell, who I think was probably one of the last players that the Birds cut. Personally, I was a little surprised that he didn't make the initial roster with Anaya Smith going on IR, especially since Campbell was at one point the clear favorite to be the wide receiver 3, but I'm glad he's back, and I definitely think that he could be a guy that the Birds call up to the roster as needed throughout the season as well. And then on top of that, the Birds also brought back quarterback Will Greer to the practice squad. So at this current moment, that's what the Eagles practice squad looks like, and I personally think that they have some pretty good pieces, so I'm definitely very happy about it overall. Now, if you don't want to miss any Eagles coverage coming throughout this entire season, then again, make sure you guys subscribe, and also really importantly, turn on notifications so you're notified instantly when one of these videos is uploaded, and also drop a like to show some support. It really does help me out a ton. Again, let's see if we can hit 800 likes on today's video, and also leave a comment down below just regarding anything that I talked about in this video. What are your thoughts on the Eagles' current state of the practice squad right now? And also, if you want to watch another video going over the Eagles' final cuts and initial 53-man roster, you can check this out right here. Now, with all that being said, that's pretty much all I got for this one, guys, so thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.